Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday. Well, hard to believe, May 27th. So we are really ending the end of the month with a beautiful topic here. And we are going to get started. Limited time offers, the Travel Sun Essentials. And then don't forget about the Shinrin Yuku hair and beard oil and the bath bar. This is something that I'm most excited about to be able to put these amazing oils in my hair. And so it isn't just a dominant type gift, it is one that we are all going to love. So definitely put that on your list as well. And these are some remaining limited time. The Rose Hydrosol, the Moringa is sold out, but there's 60% of the Rose Hydrosol left. Mother's Day Trio. I tell folks don't look this as a Mother's Day, but we always have someone in our life, teacher, coworker, neighbor, you name it, that is struggling sometime through the year. And what an amazing gift to give them just one of these. Give them beautiful or give them shine. It's going to make them feel that way. And my favorite that I started 13 plus years ago was Whisper, and that's one of these. And then look at the beard oil already, 50%, guys. So here it is. We're excited for this. And this ends tonight at midnight, Mountain Time. So these are all 50% sold out right here. So you still have time to place this order. This is an incredible order to stock up on. So keep this in mind. And then June specials. There's your frankincense. Um, um, with 125 PV order by the 15th, unless you buy the bundle and so on. And 200 PV this month. I wonder how many of these we can get. Does it say? There it is, 4 total. So you don't have to do individual. You can just keep stacking up. And if you place a 600 PV order, you can count on getting 3 of these rose touches. And then also coming June 1st, these are all Junes, is Endless Summer, the Endless Summer Pilot Diffuser, the bundle, and something absolutely brand new. Endless Summer Hair and Body Mist. And this is replacing I think it's called, was beautiful. So upcoming classes next week, this is important for everyone to know. On the 3rd, Stephanie Fritz, as many of you know, is an author. This class will not only not be recorded, there will not be PowerPoint slides. Just come with paper and pencil. And there's reasons for that. Compliance, legal, you name it. She does not want anything ever to leak out. So whatever you take your notes on is what you get. And then all of you within driving distance, Dr. Shane is here next Thursday for an unplugged, unfiltered. You bring your questions, you bring your friends, and come and get some major questions answered. And then Dr. Hill is presenting on the 9th at 1 o'clock Central Time. And that is through Doctor, both him and her doing a fantastic job getting good speakers. And we know that something happened last month and we didn't get him, but the Goffs have promised us that he'll be back, and there it is. And then guess what's happening week after next? June 10th. Cholesterol is not the enemy. Dr. Shane is back. So once a month, and it just happens it's falling toward the very end of the month, and then on the 10th again. On the 17th, this is going to be in Baldwin and Unplugged with Dr. Riggs. The entire day with PJ Hanks and dinner and the Unplugged, all for $65. So you're saving $35. Incredible savings. On the 24th, Fascia, the missing piece of pain puzzle with Joyce Day, which people just love. And then the early bird has been extended, and this is going to be coming to a close on Sunday night. So get your convention tickets early and save $30. And more times than not, you're not going by yourself. So you're going with someone. So you're going to be just stacking that up, 30, 30, 30. So get that. And now you can customize your convention experience. And that was effective as of May 1st as well. The Essential Oil Symposium, yes, you're having that again. Zumba, sound bath, the gala. The gala is the first night of the event. And so look at all of these things. You can get in there now and stack these and get your product. And then tonight's the last night of Silver Club. And what that means is if you are going to enroll tonight, you're going to get some added um, specials right here. And also, you can take advantage of the 20% off, get a huge discount, and get these. I do know that on June 1st, Master Club is happening, and we will roll that out next week as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over. Dr. Shin, we have over 100 people on already.
Awesome. 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 I love that we have such good turnout. So thanks for joining, guys. I'm just gonna get this pulled up here a second so I can share my screen. Perfect. There we go. All right. So, yeah, thanks for joining tonight, guys. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so good to see you. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Shane Heiser. At my foundation, I'm a chiropractor, but also practice what most would consider kind of functional medicine, but really holistic kind of holistic practices, health restoration. My goal is just try to make everybody as healthy as possible, get to the root of a lot of your guys' different issues. Because if we can start to address things from there, then we can get you back to health, have you take back control of your life, and all those different things. Tonight, we're going to be talking about thyroid. This is an ever-growing issue that I see at my clinic. I just see all around. So many people are getting put on thyroid medication. They're having thyroid issues. They're being diagnosed with autoimmune thyroid. And what I see too often is that people aren't finding the answers that they want, right? It's here's a medication, you're going to be on this and you're going to be on it forever. And people just feel like, I just don't feel like that's right. Well, what can I do? And the answer they always get, there's nothing you can do. You're going to be on it forever. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not the only option, okay? There are things that you can do. There is hope out there. I help a lot of people get to the root, again, the root of that issue, help them rebuild, restore, and heal their body. And a lot of those times when we're functioning healthy, right, our thyroid is functioning healthy, our body is functioning in a healthy manner, then there's no need for those medications, right? So we'll get diving into it, but again, just an ever-growing issue with some of these thyroid things going on. So first step is, what does the thyroid do? What does it help our body do? What's interesting, it interacts with so many different things. When we think about this and when we hear about this, right, it controls part of our breathing, our heart rate, over our overall heart health, part of our cholesterol levels, controls part of our central nervous system, body weight, muscle strength, muscle mass, has a big impact on, if you're a cycling lady, has a big impact on your hormones and your cycles, but it even impacts you if you're in those menopausal years. Body regulation or for temperature affects your digestion, affects bone health, affects your brain, so development, IQ, and then your immune system. Okay, so many different parts of your body that it goes or relates to, and that's because we'll get into it, but that thyroid hormone is produced in every organ in our body has a receptor for thyroid hormone. Okay, so it's going out and it's assisting and helping all these other organ systems. So that's my first kind of question that I want to challenge you with is, okay, if we see a quote unquote thyroid issue, is it always going to be the thyroid? And that's what I see is really a vast majority of the time. It's not a thyroid issue. It's something else is going on in the body, right? What if you have a digestive issue going on? What if you have a liver issue? What if you have cycle issues? Well, what if the thyroid is just responding to those other issues to try to assist them, right? Is that a thyroid issue or is that something else going on, right? But it affects every part of your body. My, is it stuck? Can't go to my next slide. Mhm. There we go. Okay. I don't know what happened there, but so when we look at thyroid, there's really two ways that it can start to dysfunction. Okay. We can have hypo or we can have hyperthyroid. So when we think hypo meaning low. So we're seeing low kind of function throughout the body with some of those different systems. So you can have trouble sleeping, tiredness and fatigue, right? So low energy. You can have a difficulty concentrating. You can have dry skin and hair. You can have things like depression, constipation. You could have sensitivity to cold temperatures, frequent or heavy periods. You could have things like joint and muscle pain. Okay. So again, a lot of low, right? So constipation is slow digestion. Depression is low mood. When we look on the other side, when we look at hyperthyroidism, it's the same similar thing, but opposite. Okay. So we again can see trouble sleeping, but a lot of times you're more anxious and racing mind and things like that. Again, that restlessness, right? Our body can't calm down, our brain can't calm down because it's hyperactive. We say anxiety and irritability. Instead of being dry skin, we can start to see sweating and wet skin. Okay. We can see things like tremors, again, shaking hand, restlessness. We can start to get hyperactive bowels, so looser stools, more frequent bowel movements, sometimes uncontrollable. Here we can start to see weight loss rather than weight gain, right? So if it's overactive, our metabolism can be kind of hyperactive and we can start to lose too much weight. We can start to see weakness in some of our muscles, thin hair and skin, and sometimes that heat intolerance, right? So again, a lot of different things that can start to go on. The big ones that people look at a lot of times is the temperature part of things, the weight loss part of things, the restlessness and trouble sleeping, a lot of times with the hair, so thinning hair and things like that. That's what a lot of people start to relate the thyroid to and what they're looking for. But again, it can affect so many different parts of the body, so those aren't the only thing. And I always say everybody is different, right? So just because your friend had X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that you're going to have the same exact things, okay? So when we talk about thyroid, we got to look at what does the system actually look like? It is a big complex system. Everything in our body is connected, right? So really it starts with we have a part of our brain. Our brain is our central nervous system, kind of the central processing unit. It makes all of our decisions and sends signals out. Okay, so it's going to send a signal out to our pituitary. So our brain is communicating with all these things. And then once that's done communicating, saying, hey, here's what we need to do, it sends a signal out to our thyroid. Okay. That signal that we see is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay. So here's really where the first misconception starts. They say this is a thyroid hormone. It is a brain hormone. It is a signal that the brain sends out to tell the thyroid what to do. Okay. So TSH, which is the thing that if you're going to look at anything, that's the one thing that your doctor checks, okay? And they say, well, this is our thyroid hormone. It's not. It's a brain hormone that is trying to tell the thyroid make more or make less thyroid hormone. Once it gets that signal of what to do, then our thyroid is going to make what's called T4. So this is our first thyroid hormone. T4 is not the active form. So this isn't the one that can bind to the tissues, bind to the receptors, and start to have an effect on them. Okay. T4 is what they consider inactive. So now it actually travels to the liver. Okay. The liver converts it to T3, and now it can go back out to those tissues to have an effect. Then what's interesting with the body is our body has hundreds to thousand times more sensory receptors to sense what is going on in our body than it does of like action um, nerves. So then once those organs use up and use that T3, it then sends a signal to the brain, hey, I have enough. Hey, I need more. Hey, I need less. Okay. And then that cycle repeats. Okay. So it gets that signal to the brain. The brain tells the thyroid, what it needs to do, up, down, stay the same, makes the appropriate amount from the signal that it got, goes out to the tissue, and then it just keeps repeating. Okay, right? There's a lot of pieces to that. So that's where what you need to do is when you're really looking at thyroid and you're trying to see, do I have thyroid dysfunction? What's going on with my thyroid? You need this complete picture. You need to look at all these different things because if you're not looking at all of it, you're not getting that complete picture, right? I always say it's like bringing your car in and there's an issue and all you do is look at the brakes and you look at the battery and you say, well, those are fine, so everything's good. Well, no, did you check the oil? Did you check all the other parts, right? There's so many different parts in that car. Let's look at everything, not just check one or two things and assume everything else is right. Okay. So when we talk about that, that's where you need to get complete testing. Okay. And this is what we do at our clinic. We want to look at all those different pieces to it so we get the complete picture so we actually know what's going on. Okay. Right. Again, the big one that we talked about was TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This is again kind of acting like that thermostat for your thyroid, but it is a brain hormone that gets sent as a signal to your thyroid. Then there's the T3, right? We mentioned that. There's two different forms of it. I always kind of think of free versus total. Think about total as the entire football team. Think about free are the guys that are out on the field. Okay. So all part of the team, but some are having an effect and some don't. So T3 is that active form. T4 is the inactive form that gets converted to T3. Then we have thyroid antibodies. Antibodies are what we look for when we look for an autoimmune condition. Okay. There are these little white flags that get put on it that say, hey, something's going on here. Our immune system has to come and look at it. And then things can start to happen, right? And what I often see is these things get missed. People get diagnosed with an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's, yet they never had the thyroid antibodies tested. You can't get diagnosed with an autoimmune condition without getting thyroid auto or antibodies tested. I have plenty of patients that are like, yep, I was told I have Hashimoto's. We run the labs and I'm like, I don't see any antibodies, so that's not true. Right. So again, they don't get that complete picture. So now people are getting led in a direction that isn't necessarily the right direction for them. There's things like T3 uptake. So are those are there enough receptors and different things like that for that thyroid hormone to actually bind to different things and have an effect? We have our thyroxine binding globulin, which I basically call our little taxi cabs. These move the thyroid hormones around the body. You need to have them moving around. So, do we have enough of those? And then we have something called reverse T3. Reverse T3 is a protective mechanism that if our body recognizes there's too much T3, there's something going on, this can actually protect us. It can start to bind to some of those sites and not allow T3 to go in there, right? I always say it's like, okay, if something's going on, you don't want that, they fill up all the parking spots, so the other ones can't get in those parking spots. But again, you need to look at all of these things to get that complete picture. There's really 12 different markers that you should be looking at when it comes to thyroid. And this is what we do. And I'll show you an example of what this looks like. Okay. But here's what I hear all the time. Well, I have a normal TSH and you're fine, but I still don't feel good. Something's off. I don't feel good. What's going on? Okay. Right. You're not crazy. There's something going on. We just didn't find the thing that is causing the issue, right? If you only check TSH, you might have missed something else. Um, correct. Yep, Dr. Len agreed. So high TSH, right? What is the answer? Well, you have high TSH, you have an underactive thyroid, so you're just going to be on levothyroxine for the rest of your life. Okay, right? That's the answer I hear too often. People are like, well, I don't feel like that's right, but it's the only answer I have. Low TSH is, well, you have an overactive thyroid, okay? And there's nothing we can do, but okay, well, if it's too overactive, I don't know what to do. So sometimes they remove it or sometimes they destroy it. They literally put like radioactive pellets in it and kill part of it to say, well, it's functioning too high. We can't get it to turn off. We don't know what to do. So we're just gonna cut it out or destroy part of it, right? Doesn't make sense to me. Let's figure out what the actual issue is versus just ripping an organ out and hoping for the best. You got to get to the root cause of things. You got to get to some of these different things. Now, there's definitely some people in certain situations where they've had their thyroid removed. If that's the case, you're going to have to be on levothyroxine, right? You have to have thyroid hormone. If you remove the factory, you have to have it, but you still need all that proper testing to make sure you have the appropriate amount. And again, I'll show you examples. But how our approach looks different, right, is I look at your body like a house, okay? And if your house is on fire, you're going to call the fireman, right? He has the appropriate tools to take care of that fire, right? He has the hose, he has the axe, he can get in there, he can put the fire out, okay? But when you come about and your house looks like this, that's still not a livable house, right? The house is burnt down, but is the fireman the guy to do that job? The next part of the job of rebuilding the house? No, right? You can't rebuild a house with a hose and an axe. You have to call the carpenter, okay? And the carpenter is going to go back in there and start to rebuild the house. This is how I look at it. There's a time and a place for everything. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti the medical system, but there's a time and a place for everything. If there's a big enough fire, if you're having a heart attack, I will drive you to the hospital so that they can save your life, right? If the house burns to the ground, really hard to repair it, okay? Right? So there's a time and a place for everything. So they're there to get you out of some of those emergencies. But my question is, why is the fire there in the first place? And how are you going to rebuild and rebalance everything back out so that you now have a livable house again? So that's where I like to consider myself the carpenter, right? I'm here to figure out why is the fire there in the first place? What kind of fires might be there? If the fire is big enough, we might have to go use the firefighters, but some fires we can manage by ourselves, right? But then again, how are you going to rebuild that house so that it's livable again? So just a little bit of different perspective, right? So when we look at the thyroid dysfunction, what is that medical approach? Again, levothyroxine, TSH-based dosing, even some of the different things with the heart, right? Focuses on just replacing the hormones and not really asking why is this going on. This is where I think we even differ from some of the alternative approaches like functional medicine and things like that. Thyroid, they're going to look at it and be like, okay, the thyroid's dysfunctioning. How do I fix the thyroid itself? And again, you need iodine, you need selenium, you need zinc, you need these different things. Yes, right? But what if something else is going on? You got to ask, why is the thyroid struggling in the first place? Maybe it has some deficiencies, right? But what if that's not the only thing going on, right? Are we running that thyroid panel? Are we converting appropriately, right? Is there something else going on in the body, right? In a different organ system that's causing these different responses? You got to ask those deeper questions of why. So again, what does that proper testing look like? When I run a thyroid panel, these are all the things I'm testing, okay? TSH, T3, T4, I'm looking at cortisol levels, and I'll show you later why that's important. There's a big connection between your adrenals and your thyroid. And literally on the thyroid medication itself, it says, do not prescribe this medication without properly testing your cortisol and your adrenals. It says it right on there. And I've never had a patient come in with cortisol and adrenal testing when they're on those medications. Haven't seen it. I ask every time. They're like, nope, I don't have it. I say, okay, well, we need to, right? T uptake, those antibodies, reverse T3, thyroxine binding globulin, those taxicabs. What does your vitamin D levels look like? Ferritin levels, so iron stores, iron levels, anemia. Again, more adrenal hormones like DHEA. I'm looking at a CMP, which looks at liver, kidney, electrolyte balances, We're also doing a CBC, so assessing our overall health, our immune status, are there any immune triggers, different things like that, and inflammation levels. You need to look at the thyroid completely, but you also need to look other places to see, is there something else going on over here that then our thyroid is responding to? If you only look at the thyroid, again, you could be missing pieces to the puzzle, even if you get all the thyroid markers I mentioned. But if you don't look at anything else, you still could be missing pieces to the puzzle. Okay, so that's where testing is so important. So when we look at this, we say, well, what does levothyroxine or Synthroid contain? It contains T4, which is then an active form. It also contains sugar. It contains lactose monohydrate, so milk products. Contains cornstarch. It contains aluminum, which is a toxic heavy metal. It contains yellow 6, yellow 10, red 25, red 30, red 40, blue 1, and blue 2. All these dyes that have been shown to have caused issues like ADD, kidney things, all sorts of issues. Why do we have to add corn and milk and sugar and food dyes to a medication? I have people that are literally anaphylactic to milk, anaphylactic to corn, but are being put on these medications and they're having these reactions. I'm like, well, you're literally reacting negatively. You're having allergic reactions to the medication because of the miscellaneous products that they put in there. Why do they have to put that in there? My other question is, well, if it's only T4, what if you have a conversion issue? This isn't going to help you because you're getting T4, your body still has to convert it to T3. So again, that's where there's so many different things that could be missing. Right? So here's what I was talking about, right? The contraindication. We can see in there, levothyroxine is contraindicated in patients with uncorrected adrenal insufficiency, right? Since thyroid hormones may precipitate to acute adrenal crisis by increasing the metabolic. If you have uncorrected adrenal insufficiency and weren't properly tested and you get put on levothyroxine, it can put you into acute adrenal crisis. Okay. That's what that's saying. And it's also saying it's contraindicated in patients with hypersensitivities and to those active ingredients or allergies, hypersensitivities or allergies. But again, I've never seen any of my patients get the proper testing. Are they allergic to any of these ingredients? Do they have their adrenals tested? Right. So if you're on it, ask yourself, have you looked at those other things? Because that could be part of the issue as well. So when we look at this, there are 6 of those thyroid hormones. So you have to ask yourself again, how can Synthroid replace all of this, right? They're saying, well, your thyroid's an issue. Here's the medication. It's going to fix everything. It's only giving you number one. How can it replace all of these different things, right? That's a question you have to ask. Okay, so here is an example of a patient who came in. She was struggling with anxiety and depression. She was honestly struggling with infertility issues and things like that. We see a lot of people with infertility, and you remember seeing, right, what can one of the things that the thyroid affect? It can affect our hormones, it can affect our cycles, it can affect our reproductive capabilities and affect a lot of different things. We ended up testing her hormones, and if you see, she had a normal TSH, okay? Normal TSH there, but what do you see bigger? She had a massive, really high level of thyroid peroxidase antibodies. That's an autoimmune reaction even though her TSH is normal, even though some of her other markers are normal. Okay. So we know there's a major immune reaction going on, and the thyroid is the target. The thyroid is still doing its job right now. Okay. If you do nothing about this, eventually your thyroid is going to have enough damage to where it will start to dysfunction. Okay. It won't be able to function properly. Okay. But those high levels of antibody tells me there's some sort of immune trigger going on. And again, that is a result of it. And I do a whole autoimmune type talk, but they say, well, an autoimmune is your body making a mistake and in destroying itself. Is it? Right? Why would your body destroy itself? I was taught that your body never makes a mistake. It's just trying to adapt. What if there's toxins and immune triggers and different things that get lodged into your thyroid? And then your body tries to go in there and cleans it out, and some of the collateral damages that thyroid tissue, right? What if there's a virus in there? What if there's toxic mold? What if there's heavy metals that get stuck in there, right? It's saying, well, we're going to sacrifice this thyroid cell because it has harmful toxins in it to try to save the rest of them, right? Is that the wrong thing to do? I don't think so, right? But what did we find? She had 20 different food allergies that she was reacting to, which is a big trigger to our immune system. She had a really bad gut, really bad balance, different things like that going on, right? So that's where those immune triggers can start to come from. Is it a thyroid issue? No, it's an immune system issue that her body's reacting to foods. She has gut issues going on that it's reacting to. And then the thyroid is being affected by those. Okay. Even though she had normal TSH. Okay. But again, we reduced her food allergies, we cleaned up her gut. These numbers went down, and now she just had her second baby. Okay. Second baby, 100% natural, no interventions, no anything like that. She is not on a medication. So it's wonderful. Oop, yep. Right. See, good morning. The blood draw I did on Friday might be a little altered because this morning I found out I'm pregnant. Right? So we were running labs, checking in on things, and all of a sudden, poof, like, well, we're going to be using that blood work for something different now, right? So love seeing these messages that come through. One of the best things about it is just helping people live out their dreams and being healthy. Okay, we see another example here, same situation to where, again, normal TSH levels, but we see those antibodies. So again, this is early stage autoimmune where we see an autoimmune reaction, um, but the thyroid is still functioning correctly. Again, if all you do is check TSH, you say, well, everything is perfectly fine. No, it's not perfectly fine. There's something going on. This is the fire that just started. If you do nothing, then yes, in a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, this will eventually become a problem. But this is where you get proper testing, you can catch things early and start to make changes. Okay, again, here's another one. Normal TSH, but this lady was being extremely overdosed on her medication. She was losing hair, she had a racing mind, anxiety, having panic attacks. She constantly felt like her skin was crawling. She was losing a lot of weight and had no explanation for it. She had tons of gut issues going on, couldn't leave the house because she didn't know if she was going to be able to make it to a bathroom in time. With her losing so much weight, they thought it might be cancer. They couldn't find cancer, so they even considered doing chemo on her, saying, well, we must just not be able to find it. We could just do it anyways. And she's like, no, that's not the answer. But what was going on is they were giving her medication, more medication, higher doses, higher doses, higher doses because her TSH wasn't in range. But now we look at her T3 levels, higher end of range is 181. She's at 505. That's 3 times the upper limit of normal, right? And this is the active. This binds to all the different tissues. She was getting anxiety because her brain was just on fire from so much stimulation. Her skin was tingling because the hormone had to go somewhere. It was binding to literally everything and just causing all these different reactions, right? You got to figure out what's going on. So when you don't do proper testing, you don't get that complete image. So when you look at your thyroid, you got to ask these 4 questions. What does the production look like? Am I making enough? Okay. What does the conversion look like? Am I converting my hormones properly? Is there an autoimmune reaction? So is my thyroid being destroyed? Okay. And is there any interference with any of these processes, right? What are those triggers that could be interfering? These are the 4 things that you need to ask when it comes to your thyroid, right? So what do we need for production? We need selenium, we need iron, we need glutathione, we need zinc, we need tyrosine, we need some different vitamins, E, B, C, and D. We need all these different things for proper function, for proper um, on there. Iodine should also be on here. I don't know how that got slid off, but okay, iodine is also a big one, right? So we need these different hormones to just produce our hormone to have our thyroid proper functionally. Yes, you can be deficient, right? And it could be as simple as adding some of these things in to where you just don't have the appropriate ingredients to it. Okay, that could be one issue. Something like tyrosine, where do you get that? So it's not essential, so you have to eat it, right? Tyrosine comes from a Greek of tyros, meaning cheese. So here's a whole bunch of different foods that you can start to get it from: chicken, turkey, fish, peanuts, almonds, avocados, right? You can take a picture of this. This is how you start to nourish your body in a healthy, appropriate, whole food way, right? Everybody's like, well, I don't want to take all of these different supplements and all these different things. Okay, well, that's fine. I get it. I would rather you get some of these things from your food. Okay. But I'll be honest, it's really hard to get everything that you need from your diet. Okay. And again, I really think a diet is a huge part of it. I preach this all the time, right? Your diet needs to be number one. And that's literally where the word supplement comes for. It's there to supplement your diet and fill in some of the missing gaps. Okay. That's what supplements are for. If we can't get all these things in, well, let's supplement them, right? And it's crazy because when you look at our omega levels and things like that we get from some of our salmon, some of our different things, they did research, you'd have to eat almost a pound of salmon a day to get the appropriate amount of omega levels in. One, I don't think anybody can afford that. Good quality salmon is not cheap. Okay. But also, I love salmon, but I'm not going to eat it every single day, right? That's where you take the fish shows, you take the E omega pluses, right? That's where it comes in. Where do you get iodine from, right? Iodine's a huge one. This is why they started adding iodine back to salt, because they started seeing through so many thyroid issues. So if you don't have it, you can't make thyroid hormone. You start to get what's called a goiter and a large thyroid. Where do you get this from? Cod, shrimp, scallops, sea bass, haddock, perch, sea salt, kelp, right? Several different things. It's also found in our VMZ. Okay. This is specific, right? There's the new VMG2, which also has that, right? But I'm giving you guys some options. If you have some of this, this is one of it, but the VMG also covers this. Where do you start to get the conversion? You need selenium, you need iron, you need glutathione, you need zinc. Again, this happens in the liver. So if you have liver issues, there's a good chance you have conversion issues. A lot of people have liver issues nowadays. They have fatty liver, well, whether it's alcoholic fatty liver or non-alcoholic fatty liver, right? They can have a sluggish liver. It can be backed up. They can be full of other toxins, and now their liver's trying to do all these other things, and maybe it doesn't have the time and energy to do the proper conversion, right? It can only do so many things at once. The liver is pretty amazing, but you need these different things. Again, you can get this from the Alpha CRS Plus and from VMZ. Again, the newer combined version is that VMG, but I'm trying to give you guys those different options there, right? That lifelong vitality pack is going to be great, help support that. VMG is the newer version. Here's some different things that you can do to help support your thyroid as well. So the hypothyroid, when we have um, that lower functioning thyroid, I gave you that thing there, a little bit of clove oil, a little bit of lemongrass. You can put that in a roller, apply it over the throat. Your thyroid is right here, basically where your kind of Adam's apple, just below it. Okay. Apply it right there. You can also apply it to your foot, right? So I gave you guys the chart right here. You can see thyroid is on the big toe, right? So kind of at the base of the big toe, and right where the big toe meets your foot is where your thyroid and kind of parathyroid are. Now you can do it on both feet, but a lot of times they say the left foot is in the body, the right foot is out of the body. Okay. Definitely doesn't hurt to put on both, but if you're gonna pick one, put it on the left. Okay. Left in, right out. Okay. So that's what you're gonna do to help support. But again, this is going to help buy you some time to dig deeper to figure out the real issue. Okay. This isn't going to fix all your thyroid problems. It's going to help start to regulate it a little bit better, help it be more adaptable, but you still have to get to the root of the issue. Okay. Now, hyperthyroidism, so just the opposite. Myrrh and lemongrass are going to be great for it. Do the same thing, combine a drop of each of those and a little bit, rub it over your thyroid area, kind of that base of that neck, and then again putting it on those different points on the feet. Okay. Now we talk about the autoimmune part of it. This is the destruction part of it. This is the leading cause of death among young and middle-aged women in the United States. We see down here, leading cause of death of 15 all the way to 64. The eighth leading cause of death, and I think, yeah, this was a little bit older. This was in 2000, but this has gone up. I believe it's the fourth leading cause of death, but ages 15 all the way to 64 in women. Okay. Big, big, big thing. And the thing that I see and we struggle with is that, again, we're not getting to the root of it. We just say, well, you have Hashimoto's, you're going to have it forever. Here's the levo. You're not getting to it. All that's going to do, there's going to continue to be more damage over time, and then you're going to have to be relying on that medication. But again, there's still the damage, there's still the autoimmune reaction, there's still those things going on. The medication doesn't undo that. It's just saying, well, it's getting destroyed, it's becoming less effective. We're just going to try to fill in the gaps. Eventually, it'll be all gone, but right? That's what we got for you, right? Some of us want different answers, right? So what are those autoimmune triggers again that we're looking for? We're looking for those different antibodies in there. Okay, those antibodies formed, and again, they're destroying that thyroid. So again, we've seen some of these different labs, we've seen some of those different examples of that. So what can trigger our immune system? I showed you one example of the food allergies, those hypersensitivities. Some people just, well, they're a sensitivity, they're not a big deal. It is classified as an allergy. There is the IgG allergy, which is people refer to as intolerances or sensitivities, still an allergy. Okay. Your body is still reacting negatively to it. This is like pouring fuel on the fire. Okay. They give it a different name and they try to dumb it down to kind of say, well, it's not that big of a deal. You can just keep eating them. No, cut them out because you're pouring fuel on the fire. Your body is reacting negatively to it. Just because you put a different label onto it doesn't mean that it's not affecting your body in a negative way. Okay, so we can see that cytotoxic hypersensitivities. Cytotoxic meaning toxic to living cells. That's what that's talking about. Okay, so just because you are sensitive to something doesn't mean, well, it's not that bad. I'm not allergic to a peanut and it's going to swell my throat's going to swell up and I need an EpiPen, right? It's not an anaphylactic allergy, but it is still an allergy that's causing damage, causing imbalances in the body. Okay. One of them can be viral. Oops. One of them can be viral. That's one of the major triggers for autoimmune conditions. A virus needs a host cell. Virus gets into you, it finds your thyroid, it gets into a thyroid cell, takes it over. It has to have that cell to replicate. Again, what does your body do? It says, well, I'm going to go get that virus. I'm going to sacrifice that thyroid cell to try to save the rest of the thyroid so it doesn't replicate. Again, not the wrong thing, but if you never take care of the virus, you never take care of that, eventually it'll all be destroyed. Yep, right. I just saw Lynn mention this and I was like, I know that's my next slide. So when you talk about thyroid autoimmune, the number one food you have to avoid, hands down, is gluten. Okay. Gluten, gluten, gluten. You have to cut gluten. You have to cut wheat out of your diet if you have thyroid autoimmune condition. Just have to. It's been shown over and over again to start to trigger that thyroid autoimmune. Your body kind of starts to recognize the gluten. It's very similar to thyroid tissue, actually. So your body starts to it starts to increase that autoimmune. It also starts to trigger a leaky gut, which again then starts to contribute to or is a precondition to autoimmune disease. I can show you slide after slide where gluten and wheat just destroys your gut. It becomes leaky. And that's the one of the main precursors that we start to see with leaky gut. And then again, gluten just in general can trigger those higher autoimmune conditions, especially the thyroid. We can see leaky gut too, right? I was taught in school, well, this is just some bowel gas and some different things like that. I see people that we start to take care of their bodies. We start to see some of these different things. All this quote unquote gas goes away. This can be inflammation too. You can see that inflammation. You can see that leaky gut. Like this isn't just a normal amount of gas, right? That's so much. It's their entire colon, right? This is inflammation that's going on. And again, we can see that with the food allergies, with a stool test, what's going on, that leaky gut triggering those foods. We can see multiple infections, including parasites, bacteria, yeast. We see a huge imbalance in our microbiome, see lack in digestion, and again, just starting to trigger that. So again, looking other places other than the thyroid. 9 times out of 10, more probably like 99 times out of 100, your thyroid isn't the issue. It's something else is going on, and it's either a secondarily affecting that thyroid in a negative way, like autoimmunity, or your thyroid is just reacting to whatever is going on. If you have this bad of a gut, yeah, your thyroid is going to be more active trying to support your gut, right? Couple years ago when all the toilet paper went off the shelves because people freaked out about it, did the factories just make the same amount? Or did they get that signal and say, no, we need to make a whole lot more toilet paper, right? Is that increased production of toilet paper wrong? No, right? Same thing going on here. If you use up all your thyroid hormone trying to fight parasites, infections, bad microbiome, poor digestion in the gut, and it's all getting used up in the gut, and your gut says, I need more, and your thyroid says, cool, I got you, let's make more. That's not the wrong thing, right? So you got to get that complete picture and understand truly what's going on, right? So one of the other things is GX Assist. This can really help with some of those immune triggers, okay? Good at helping clear out the gut, good at helping clear out if there are different infections, different things like that, right? The GI cleansing formula really says it right there, okay? So it can help start to cleanse out that gut with some of these different things and support that gut in a good, healthy way. And you need to support your immune system, right? It's an immune trigger with a lot of these different things. So how can you start to support your immune system in different ways? DDR prime is great, Copaiba is great, On Guard, again, really helps supporting that immune system. Again, the protective blend. Breathe is going to be good. I don't know why it's interesting like that. PB Assist, again, helping with that good gut microbiome. More On Guard, oregano oil, good at good antimicrobial in there. So just great overall to help support that immune system. Now, when we get to that last part, what can start to interfere with that thyroid, right? We talked about several things. We talked about leaky gut. Sodium can be a big one, that autoimmune disease, but we're going to talk about some of these other ones. We talked about the mineral deficiency, that can be part, but are there infections, right? Are there things interfering? Are there toxins that can be doing this, right? So, what are those good interferences going to be? They're going to be what we call our 3 T's, our traumas, our toxins, and our thoughts. So physical stress, chemical stress, and mental stress. Okay. When we see this, when we look at it, we call it our halogens. Iodine is in this category, right? We see it right here. I know this is bringing you back to chemistry. Okay. Don't freak out. Okay. When we look at iodine, anything else in this category can start to bind in place of iodine. fluorine or fluoride, chlorine, bromine, these different things. So have you heard of fluoride, right? We know what chlorine is. Bromine, maybe not, but I'll show you in a second. These things can start to interfere with iodine, which again, the thyroid needs iodine to function properly, right? So where is fluoride going to non-stick pans, antidepressants, antacids, wineries? It's going to be in our water and our toothpaste, so many different things, right? And some of our different pesticides that we spray on about this, it's in our toothpaste, right? This is Crest. It literally says right on here, if more than used for brushing is accidentally swallowed, get medical help or contact Poison Control Center. That's your Crest and your Colgate toothpaste. Call Poison Control, and you're putting that in your mouth and just brushing it around, right? Doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, here you go. All right, let's get rid of that. Get some good quality toothpaste that doesn't have poison in it, doesn't have toxins in it, okay, and is not going to interfere with your thyroid. Bromine, we see this in a lot of our flours. Okay, they add it in there as a quote unquote conditioner, right? Flour and wheat is in so many things. If you can do one thing as far as food, I would say if you can give up wheat and gluten out of your diet, and that's the one thing you look at, you will be like just astounded at how many things they put it in. You're like, well, it's just in like bread and pasta. No, it's in everything, everything, okay? But so many different things. Mountain Dew, Gatorades, medications have it. There's fabrics, the fire retardants in some of our fabrics, carpets, that the new carpet smell or that new car smell, toxins. Okay, you don't want that. Hot tubs and pools, right? They use bromine in there. So again, Mountain Don't instead of Mountain Dew, right? So several different things. We know chlorine, right? Chlorine's common, right? We put it in our pools. It keeps it clean, make sure that we don't get bacterial infections, things like that. Except for again, it's toxic in certain elements, right? We can smell it. A lot of us can be sensitive to it. Our skin starts to react, these different things like that. So minimizing these as much as you can. I have a hot tub. I don't put bromine, I don't put chlorine in it. Guess what I do? I have a salt water hot tub. I can keep it clean with literally salt water, food grade hydrogen peroxide, and the salt water. No toxins, no chemicals, good for me, and I still get to enjoy a hot tub. The other one that can start to interfere is mercury. Okay, it can interfere with it. We all know mercury is bad. Okay, right? They told us that with the thermometers. Those you can't play with those thermometers. You can't break them open. You can no longer get them. But what did we do for years? We stuck it in our teeth. Okay, mercury and silver right in our teeth. And now that leaches, gets into our system, affects our thyroid. It's a heavy metal. The thyroid just sucks it up and just gets in there. So many different things to consider, right? So when we're trying to clean these toxins out of our system, okay, we need to get rid of them. We need to flush them out because realistically, we're not going to ever completely get away from them. That's just unrealistic, okay? Um, we need to get them out of our system, right? So the cleanse and restore kit, I know there was a 90-day kind of challenge at the beginning. Awesome. I love to see it. I do the same thing beginning of every year. I do a detox just as things build up throughout the year. Even though I try to live as toxin free as I possibly can, there's things that are not within our control. Okay, right? So great idea to continue to do that. Okay, I covered this already, but again, cortisol is a big thing that can interfere with it. Our stress levels, stress drastically affects our thyroid. If you don't have your stress under control, I see this all the time. Literally had a conversation today with a lady. I know what my stressor is. I said, okay, well, what is it? I hate to say it, but it's my husband. Say, okay, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do, right? But if you never clean up that stressor, you never learn how to cope with it, you never figure out that problem, there's only so much you can do. It's really hard to out supplement a massive amount of stress. It really is. Can you supplement to help your body manage? Yes. But again, you need to get to the root of the issue. Okay. The stress can lower your TSH. It blocks conversion, right? So directly affecting these different things. That's why you have to test your adrenals in order to be put on that levo according to levo, right? And you can test this. I can see these different things. Here's adrenal insufficiency, right? If this person had this testing, they shouldn't really be on levo according to the research. But again, here's those 4 questions that you really need to ask yourself, okay? Right? I know we covered a lot. I know there was a lot to talk about. I know it gets detailed. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you navigate these things, but you need to be asking these questions. Don't be afraid to ask your doctor some of these questions. Why didn't we test my adrenals? Are you testing my conversion? Are you making sure that my production is right? Are you testing all my different markers? Ask them those questions. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to ask them those questions. And if they can't help you, I can. Okay. This is your life, right? This is your health, your body. Take control. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We have a book on it too. Okay. So if you are interested to learn more, have something right in person, maybe you want to gift it to somebody. Again, gift them this talk, right? It's being recorded, but we also have a book that you can look at that walks through a lot of these different things. Okay. So here's some of our upcoming. Here's the one for tonight. We have other talks. My wife talks. We have another practitioner here. I just want to invite you to that. If you see a lot of these things, I talk every month with Sandy, so love to join you on here. I didn't ask Sandy if I could do this, but I wanted to throw this out here too, that we do a lot of different talks at our office as well. We're just trying to share information. These are all free to join too. So just let us know that you can do this. Where can we get that book? Great question. So um, if you reach out to us, we can get one sent to you. Okay. So great question. But then for joining tonight, okay, I saw the last question come in. So this will answer that question. I just want to say thank you for joining tonight. Again, I know we covered a lot of different things. I know there's a lot of nuances, but that's how complex our body is. That's how complex the thyroid is. Again, I think the big takeaway is if you're not happy with the answer that you've got with your health journey, if it is the thyroid or it's something else, there's still hope. I hope a lot of people find different answers or find the answers that they're looking for and help them take back control of their health, help them make a plan to get back to a good, healthy state. We do this with testing. We use that test to help guide us so we're not guessing at these different things. So for joining tonight and listening, I want to offer and extend this that if you're interested, we can run that full thyroid panel. You saw all those different markers that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the thyroid completely. We're going to look at all those other areas of the thyroid marker. It's going to include the test reconsult. So I'm going to sit down, or if you want to talk to my wife or Santara, if you'd rather talk to a female, more than happy. They can sit down with you, go through all of that stuff. What are our test results showing? What are we seeing? And then we make a plan moving forward. What are we going to do to get back on top of this and get this set up? So normally this would be over $800. Okay, but tonight we're going to be offering that for $649. Okay, and I saw the question on there, are these things covered under insurance? Unfortunately, they are not. Okay. So when it comes to health and wellness isn't covered under insurance. That's just part of it. So it is out of pocket. Now, HSA covers all these different things. FSA, little trickier, but generally they will cover it. But I would say plan on being more kind of out of pocket with these things. But again, you're investing into yourself, you're investing into your health, investing into your future. So more than happy to help in whatever way I can. Awesome. Let me stop sharing.
Dr. Shane, do you have your contact information on any of those slides, the last ones? If not, can you put it in the chat if you don't?
Yep.
I want to add to one more thing before I move on, and that is Dr. Shane, can folks get this blood work done remotely? Can they do it for anybody that's on the call? How would they do that? And I want to just share that I talked to Dr. Shane this week about this as well. when you're looking for tests like this, it's not because it's Dr. Shane and Dr. Courtney, but the Wellness Way in osteo is very, very, very different than any other wellness way. And I work with probably 4 or 5 different wellness ways through my other job. And his knowledge with doTERRA and what you're taking and recommending and things like that is very unique from any other wellness way. So, share just a little bit about that, Dr. Shane.
Yeah. So I see patients all over the country. So we have a lot of patients in person, but I can also do remote consultations where we talk on the phone. If you want this, for example, if you want to get this in I know somebody was from New Mexico that I saw. What I can do is you call the office, okay? You reach out, we get you set up, we get the information that we need, and then we can ship you the thyroid test kit. Then we will help you find a local blood draw place to get it drawn. Once you get it drawn, then we wait for those results to come back. Once the results come back, we reach back out. We sit down on the phone, we do a phone consultation, we go through it, and then anything that you need, anything that we recommend, we either ship right to your house or you order it from your doTERRA account or we help you find locally. Okay. So it's pretty simple. Again, I see a lot of patients virtually. Would love to see you in person. But again, we just want to help as many people as we can. Um, and again, to touch on what Sandy kind of said too, there are a lot of wellness ways out there. Love my colleagues. Courtney and I, we have dove deeper into doTERRA than a lot of the other ones. So we're here to help you navigate some of those things. How can you use some of the doTERRA products that you already have? What other ones might you need? What maybe some aren't helping you as much, kind of thing like that. And then if there is something where we need to fill in the gap, we can kind of fill in the gap as well. So yeah, does that
I think
answer?
so, Dr. Shin. I'm going to wrap up if you want to start looking at some questions.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, if you have not joined the Facebook group, where do I get the recording for tonight? You will see it on the Discover Facebook group, probably guaranteed by Saturday. It may be out there Friday, but definitely by Saturday. And you'll see it. You can click on the QR code or go to bit.ly/Discover Essentials. For those of you that are friends with me, it'll be out there the same day. Also, I love to get it via email. It's just here it is in your inbox, bit.ly/email list DE. I would guess 5, 6 weeks out, so please be patient. But the girls are extremely busy and a lot going on. So if you've clicked on these and haven't heard, you will. There's many of you graduating tonight, so click on the bit.ly/grad progress 2026 QR code there, fill that out, and it'll tell you if this is your 10th class. And either way, make sure that you go to the continuing ed 2026. Okay? Today may be your 10th, or maybe last week was your 10th, whatever it might be. We want to make sure that you get credit for that. Go out there and do your friends and family a favor and pull some of the permanent library recordings out there and share them. Not the whole library, just what does Sally need? What does John need? What does Joe need? And then get them what it is that they need from the library. That's why they're out there. If you graduate tonight, you can pick any one of these two or the essential oil certification. And basically, if you've done it already, gift this to someone. If you registered for this in the last month or even 6 weeks, please be patient. It will be coming. There are 3 types of people who join doTERRA, those that want to live, share, and build. And guess what? I, most importantly, through all this, want to get everybody to get below wholesale when they're purchasing, when they decide to move forward. And how? Check your stash. What do I have inventory? And then the best way to get below wholesale is to purchase enrollment kits. So you'll see right there, bit.ly/enrollment kits US. It is case sensitive. If you're going to join tonight and take advantage of the Silver Club, and you place an event order over 150, you're going to pick one of these as well. Please feel free to give me a call, send me a text, send me an email. Let me know what it is that you'd like to hear. Dr. Shane and Dr. Courtney got their schedule out through the end of the year. But I've got, I think, 4 spots left between now and the very end of the year. I'd love to hear from you. Again, these are for you. So I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to have Dr. Shane pick a